I could do it. I could really do it.
Do what, Nettie?
If I take a sort of a dog leg to the southwest, I can swim home.
The Swimmer is a 1968 drama film based on a short story in the New Yorker magazine. On a sunny summertime afternoon in suburban Connecticut, Ned Merrill, played by Burt Lancaster, swims in the backyard pool of a couple of hungover friends. They offer him a cocktail and have pleasant small talk. Ned realizes that if he swims the length of their pool, and a series of swimming pools throughout backyards in the county, they would almost form a river all the way to his house, and that he could swim home.
Why would you want to swim home?
I don't get it.
Pool by pool, they form a river, all the way to our house.
Well, I suppose you could put it that way. Now, Nettie, why don't you sit down and have a drink and then we'll all go to the Grahams.
I'll call it the Lucinda River, after my wife.
That's quite a tribute.
This is the day Ned Merrill swims across the county.
While his friends seem a little confused by the idea, Ned begins his swim across the county. As Ned continues to swim from pool to pool, he runs into old friends and acquaintances, including 20-year-old Julianne Hooper, played by Janet Landgard.
You're all grown up. Well, how come we never see you anymore?
Well, I guess you don't need me anymore.
Well, of course we need you, Julie. We're always looking for a babysitter.
Oh, Mr. Merrill.
How about Sunday night? You busy?
No.
Okay, you're hired. You still live in the same place?
Yes.
I'll pick you up at 7.
You're putting me on.
No, I'm not.
A babysitter? Ellen and Meg would have a fit if they heard you.
Julianne, once a babysitter for Ned's daughters, joins him and admits that she once had a crush on him.
I wish you'd have told me how you felt.
Oh, I couldn't. I would have died.
There's so little love in the world, Julie. When it's kept a secret, it's wasted, don't you see?
Despite her flirting and leading him on, Julianne quickly becomes uncomfortable when Ned attempts an intimate advance on her.
Mr. Merrill,
Julie! Julie!
As Ned gets closer to home, the neighbors begin to change their mood around him. They become colder, less welcoming, even angry at the sight of him.
Just 1 minute, Mr. Merrill. This is my house now. Don't you ever come here again. Don't you ever set foot on my property again.
Ned eventually makes it to the home of Shirley Abbott, played by Janice Rule. Shirley and Ned had a romantic past, although Ned seems to remember it as being much more recent and pleasant than Shirley does.
Remember last winter in Toronto? We called room service and ordered bullshots?
I wasn't in Toronto last winter.
Well, sure, I came up for the opening of your show. Remember how it snowed? And I ordered a horse and a sleigh to take us from the hotel to the theater.
I haven't been in Toronto in 3 years now.
Ned continues his journey, growing colder and more tired. Will Ned be able to swim home? And when he gets home, what home will there be? This first appeared as a short story by John Cheever in The New Yorker on July 18, 1964. Sidney Pollack took over directing after Burt Lancaster and Frank Perry fought over their differing views of where the film needed to go. According to Burt Lancaster, when the film still needed an additional day of shooting, he paid $10,000 out of his own pocket. Producer Sam Spiegel removed his name from the film's credits after all of the chaos. The movie was predominantly filmed on location in Connecticut. Production took place during the summer of 1966, but the film was not released until 2 years later in 1968. William Holden was the first choice for the lead role of swimmer Ned Merrill for both producer Sam Spiegel and director Frank Perry, but Holden turned down the role. Glenn Ford, Paul Newman, and George C. Scott all turned down the role before Burt Lancaster, who was eager to play the role, was ultimately cast. Burt Lancaster worked out continuously throughout the production of the film to maintain a high level of fitness. He did numerous push-ups and sit-ups every morning before each shoot, and he gained 20 pounds of muscle by doing weights, running, karate, and aerobics. Critics were unanimous, and I agree, that Burt Lancaster's physique looks amazing considering he was 52 years old at the time of filming. Despite being athletic, Burt Lancaster had a fear of water, and he took swim lessons from the Olympian and UCLA water polo coach Bob Horn. Burt Lancaster trained at the pool at his own house and the one at UCLA. Burt Lancaster's wardrobe for the film only consisted of 17 identical pairs of blue nylon swimming trunks. Burt Lancaster always insisted that The Swimmer was both his best and his favorite film of his entire career. This movie also marked the feature film debut of writer and comedian Joan Rivers.
I never heard anyone talk like you.
Come with me. Be my love.
That I've heard before.
Not for me.
Released in the summer of 1968, The Swimmer was not a large box office success, only grossing $1.3 million. Critics were also not that favorable to it. I first saw this movie in 2007 or 2008. I was about 19 years old, and my dad and I had watched a DVD. After it was over, around 1 a.m. or whatever, it was very late at night and we turned off the DVD player and Turner Classic Movies channel was on television. This film was just starting. The opening credits looked interesting. Burt Lancaster, great actor, Joan Rivers. Neither my dad or I had any idea what this movie was. So we sat there and we're going to watch the first couple of minutes just to see what the hell it was. And we ended up so perplexed by the strangeness of the movie that we sat and watched the entire film, all 95 minutes. It was so odd, and the movie was so memorable in that regard, that I never forgot about it. In 2013, Turner Classic Movies would have special celebrity guest programmers choose movies they wanted to show, alongside Robert Osborne. Actor and comedian Gilbert Gottfried chose The Swimmer, and his take on it was very similar to mine.
Now, this is really an unusual choice for you, from my standpoint. Why did you pick it?
This was a movie I was just watching TV late at night years ago. And it's one of those, like, treats that you get. Like, this, I never heard of this before then. And it's one of those weird movies, those little movies that they used to make late 60s through the 70s that it seems like they forgot how to make nowadays.
Right.
And it would never make it to a theater nowadays.
Right. And you're right. Nobody would ever make this movie today. They'd never get a green light on it at all.
Yeah. And if they made a movie like this nowadays, you'd look at it and it would be so self-consciously strange and hip.
Many wonder what exactly is this movie about. Some say the film was intended as a parable for the failure of the American dream. Others say it's a movie that shows the death of the male playboy of the 1950s and 1960s. Some people have surmised that perhaps it's a film version of LSD.
Look at the color of that sky.
I don't like the look of that cloud.
It's beautiful. Like a dream city from the bow of a ship.
Is Ned's character crazy? Is his character in a nightmare? Is his character dead? Some movie posters ran with a tall, big blurb tagline and gigantic font height that read, "When you talk about the swimmer, will you talk about yourself?"
When I was a kid, I used to believe in things. People seemed happier when I was a kid. People used to love each other. What happened?
You got tossed out of your golden playpen, that's what happened.
My mother gave me 25 cents for mowing the lawn around our house. seems only a minute ago. I can smell the grass. It's so fast. People grow up and then we're all going to die, Shirley. That doesn't make much sense, does it?
While it was panned back in 1968, it gained a cult following in the 21st century, 40 to 50 years after its release. In fact, by the 2020s, many online movie review websites gave The Swimmer over a 100% rating. This is a very trippy movie, much like the decade that it was made in. It's a well-made film, and the fact that I saw it in 2007, 2008, and never forgot about it decades later is an indication that it really sticks with you. I'll recommend the 1968 drama film, The Swimmer. I recommend that you watch The Swimmer. And when you talk about The Swimmer, will you talk about yourself?